According to the International Encyclopedia of Political Science, quote, self-determination is a highly contentious concept that encompasses a variety of meanings and political claims. Each of these claims is based on the theory that particular population groups possess an inherent right to control their own political institutions. Self-determination is exercised in ways that include self-governance, democracy, and freedom from outside influence and pressure. It is both a norm of international law and a political principle, and it's related to concepts of territorial integrity, sovereignty, and democracy. It has internal and external aspects. In essence, self-determination is the rights of peoples to freely determine their own destiny, in particular their own political status, economic, cultural, and social development. The rights of self-determination is recognized in international law as belonging to peoples and not to states or governments. The natural questions that comes up are, who are the peoples that have the rights of self-determination? How is self-determination implemented? And the last question, what does self-determination mean today? Furthermore, self-determination has evolved within the past century. And in order to answer the questions and fully understand self-determination, it's important to understand the historical context in which the rights of self-determination has evolved. It can be divided into roughly 3 periods. The age of nationalism, from the late 18th century to the Great World Wars. The second phase, the age of decolonization, post-World War II to the end of the late 20th century, when the United Nations refined self-determination from what it was understood earlier. The third phase, the post-colonial, is what we are in now, where claims of self-determination conflicts with the principle of territorial integrity. Nationalism is a highly contested concept, and in a general sense, quote, nationalism is a strong attachment to a nation as a human collective. A nation, another contested concept, in a general sense, is a community of people united based on real or perceived characteristics such as culture, ethnicity, language, history, citizenship, etc. With the rise of nationalism in Europe in the 18th century, European nationalists advanced self-determination in a collectivist sense by arguing that all nations were entitled to the rights of self-determination, the right to form their own state. They seek to create national states out of the large multi-ethnic empires such as Austro-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. This nationalist conceptualization of self-determination saw the rights belonging to the nation, which was based on ethnicity, language, history, and cultural heritage. Perhaps the most well-known advocate of self-determination was US President Woodrow Wilson, who argued that there could be no justice or order if nations were denied the right to self-determination. He articulated this political vision for the new European order in a series of speeches known as the 14 Points Address, the 4 Principles, the 4 Ends, and the 5 Particulars. However, it's important to understand that self-determination at this time was a political principle and not accepted as an international norm or right by many other states. It was only applied to newly formed states and to the defeated powers after World War I. The term self-determination didn't even make it into the covenants of the League of Nations. Self-determination wouldn't be an international norm until post-World War II, where it became part of the United Nations Charter in Article 1 and 55. In the UN Charter, the references to self-determination were very vague and referred to principles of equal rights and self-determination of people without explanation of what that exactly meant. This would change in the 1960s, where self-determination soon became understood as a norm of international law. The key document to illustrate what self-determination came to mean was the Declaration of Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples, adopted by the General Assembly, Resolution 1514 of December 14, 1960. Within a decade, its provisions became accepted as customary law by all United Nations members. The declaration states, quote, "The subjugation of peoples to alien subjugation, domination, and exploitation constitutes a denial of fundamental human rights, is contrary to the Charter of the United Nations, and is an impediment to the promotion of world peace and cooperation." The second paragraph is the one that became the expression of the norm of self-determination in international law. Quote, "All peoples have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural developments." That paragraph made its way in positive international law when the General Assembly directed that it be included in the first article of the two Covenants of Human Rights in 1966. An important question is, what did the article mean by all peoples? Does it mean that every ethnic group have the right to self-determination? Did peoples refer to only peoples of colonial territories? Well, the more than 50 cases of self-determination makes it very clear that self-determination was territorial and applied to entire populations of external colonial territories. It is not the same as the national self-determination claims of the mid-18th and early 20th century. Self-determination became a right for colonized peoples of geographically distinct territories. In 1970, Resolution 2625, titled "The Declarations on Principles of International Law Concerning Friendly Relations and Cooperation Among States," restated and confirmed customary international law and the 1960 declarations. It also expanded the options that fulfilled self-determination. Quote, "Any other political status freely determined by a people." Thus, a political principle of national self-determination based on history, cultural, and ethnicity been transformed into a norm of international law to that meant of territorial decolonization, a shift from a nation-based argument for self-determination to a decolonization-based argument. While it seems intuitive to think that self-determination is implemented through a referendum, whereas the eligible people directly vote for their preferred political status, the majority of self-determination referendums were held after the 1990s. Up until then, the majority of colonies were granted independence by the administering powers, either willingly, such as Sierra Leone and Burkina Faso, or only after wars of national liberation, such as Angola and Indochina, thus implementing the rights of self-determination, decolonization, and satisfying the requirement of self-governance. After the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, referendums became common, possibly due to Western powers pressuring for referendums in order to recognize new states. With the right of self-determination being internationally recognized as a right for colonized peoples in geographically distinct territories, what does self-determination mean today, in a post-colonial world where most of the world has decolonized, with an exception of a few cases? The right to self-determination has been a common assertion by secessionist movements who argue that the provisions of Resolution 1514 apply in their cases. They claim that they suffer from alien subjugation and therefore their claims should be thought of the same way as the colonial peoples. They seek to create a new right, where any identifiable cultural group has the right to self-determination from existing states. Examples of such secessionist movements include Quebec, Basque Country, or unrecognized states such as South Ossetia and Northern Republic of Cyprus. While international law is officially silent on the issue of unilateral secession, neither approving nor prohibiting secession, the international community consistent reaction to unilateral secession is a rejection of these states. However, for consensual secession such as South Sudan or the states that emerged after the breakup of the Soviet Union, the international community recognizes these types of consensual secession.